Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Seahawk Talk. I'm your host today, Andrew Pizzelli, filling in for Ed Habershaw. A little bit of load management here on the Seahawk Talk set. We've got a loaded show for you here today. Special guests Kevin Gilmartin, Sebastian Nordzi, and we're going to have a extra special mystery guest at 3:30. So we'll tease that a little bit for you. We're going to get to our producers. I know they have content that they want to get to start the show, but first, we're going to go with our open and let Ed sing and dance for us. So let's get to it.
I better keep down this
So that's The Shake with Keep Your Distance. I had never heard that song before last spring. I gotta say, I haven't stopped hearing it since. It's been stuck in my head, but I guess that's good because that's what we want to do. We want to keep our distance, so it's good that that's stuck in my head. So let's go ahead now and bring in the producers, Joey Morelli and Mike DeFusco. Guys, how you doing here this afternoon?
Pretty good. I don't know if Mike's frozen. I'm good. Mike's frozen.
So we'll wait for him to load up. So Joey, how about take us away here? Tell me, Mike. Tell me how you're doing, and anything you want to add to the show to start here.
I'm gonna sound like weird audio things. Yeah, I don't know. I had like my first like real day of classes today. I like had to go in for classes. Me and Mike had our first class together today. It's I don't remember the actual name. It's still like the thesis prep class though. It's all the comm seniors, and it's fun. We all get to see Dr. Ash again. We all missed her. She missed us. It's nice to see all the comm majors again. We're like there's only like 20 of us, so we all know each other, and it's really fun to kind of all see each other and hang out and stuff. When Mike's saying yes, he is frozen.
Yeah, I think Mike, you have your volume up too without the headphones. I think we're getting some of that bleed. Something like when you put two telephones near each other, we're getting all the reverb. What else? How's it like? Does it feel weird to be back on campus, but like kind of still in that like bubble atmosphere? What's that been like?
Yeah, it was kind of weird because like we were in Macaulay, and I don't know how a lot of the other buildings are set up, but each of those like big tables only has like one chair there, so you get like an entire table, and there's some blue tape on the floor in front of the teacher where we think like it's like the teacher isn't supposed to pass that, and you're not supposed to go past there, and it's like kind of weird. But it seems like it's working really well. Like they had a second TV in there for like people who are doing hybrid like Zoom type stuff, and it all worked pretty well. And I think, and a lot of the teachers are all doing really well at knowing how to incorporate all of that. Like even some who like I remember last year, like there are teachers who are like, I'm gonna hate this Zoom's. Yep. Like I'm gonna fail at Zoom so hard, and like they're doing things on Zoom I didn't even know about. And so I think Sally's done a pretty good job of like making sure everybody knows how to do the kind of online classes, which is really nice, because having online classes that don't work is frustrating.
Yeah, I think a lot of that in the spring, it was for everybody. It was a scramble, trying to figure out how we're going to do this, how we're going to do that, and it's trial by fire. I know from seeing a lot of that communication throughout the summer, there was so much planning that went into, and I know a lot of our tech guys and people at the university spent a lot of time, reaching out to people. Listen, we're going to have a Zoom workshop. We're going to show you how this app works. We're going to show you how to do this thing. Luckily, we're in an era where we have the tools. We have the tools as long as you can learn how to use them. And I think a lot of people took advantage of that over the summer to make this work, which has been a big part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mike's trying to get back in. So I guess we'll give him another second, because we want to hear from Mike. We want to hear from our
I want to know what Mike did after we left class. That was when we parted ways. We had class together, and then he disappeared. I want to know what Mike's been up to.
Now, Joey, what's the weather out there like for you? Because I know this morning and still today outside, I can't see the trees on the other side. Luckily, it's not smoke like we were talking about yesterday. Yeah. It is just fog. But it looks like I'm in the loading program of the Matrix, where it's just white outside.
Yeah, it's lightened up a little bit this morning. It was like that, like I couldn't see out my window, and it was pretty horrendously foggy. It's cleared up a little bit, like I can see out the window, but it was so muggy today. It was awful. Like in Macaulay, we tried to open the windows, and the windows in that room don't open, and we're like, okay, we're all gonna just die in here. Because like that's the worst. I don't mind like rain. I don't mind it being really cold. I don't even really mind it being really hot. I hate humidity. Like humid heat is the worst.
So you're up
Like
for
you get
all
all
New
sweaty
England
and
weather except for the humidity. You get all of those if you're
that's what I'm
in New
saying.
England.
Like, I mean, I've always lived in New England. Like, I've gotten used to it. I've never gotten used to humidity. I don't like it.
Well, I say since it seems Mike is still, unless Joey, do you see Mike in there at all?
No, yeah, he's still.
If not, I think if he's ready, if Kevin Gilmartin is ready, he's first up in our lineup today. I guess we'll go to him. And Kevin, as a football coach, he's used to playing in all elements. I know we've played in rain and sleet and snow, 60-mile-an-hour winds. You've been all over the place with the weather. So I guess that's what it takes. Being an outdoor coach in New England, you got to be ready for anything, right, Kevin?
Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't even think of it. Like I never even looked at the weather when I was a player. I just assumed it was going to be pouring rain one day, then snowing the next day, then it'd be 100 degrees the next day. It didn't really matter. You just knew you were going to play, and whatever the weather was going to be was going to be. But I do have to comment on Joey, how he's talking about how everything was set up with the classroom. There's the blue lines and the safety that Salve's doing, but he's still got to sell Salve. I mean, he's still got to say he could look out the window and it's still a cliff overlooking the ocean. Come on, Joey, let's sell us a little bit more. Help us out, brother.
I can't see anything because it's a straight drop. There's nothing to look straight out. You got to look down.
Exactly.
Exactly. Now, Kevin, kind of just along that weather real quick, football is interesting. Spring sports in New England kind of get this too, but in reverse. So normally you guys start, it's super hot. It's super muggy. Training camp is grueling. And as you go throughout the season, you get the fall. And then if you're maybe in the playoffs, you're playing in snow. You're playing in freezing cold. Now, if you guys play in the spring, it's going to be the opposite of that. Is there any? Do you have to kind of prepare a little differently? Is it going to be mentally weird to go from freezing cold to really hot by the end of your season?
Absolutely. I was thinking about that because like usually in camp, you're always worried about like taking water breaks to make sure everybody's hydrated because you're worried about something's going to happen. Especially the linemen. But now it's going to be the opposite because it's going to be cold. It could be rainy. It could be sleeting. And it's almost we might have to take like heat breaks, to try to warm up. And so it's going to be completely different. So it's a complete 180 of where it normally is. And hopefully by the time when we're finishing in the spring, normally it's beautiful and we're going to be looking to go play on the beach. And maybe at the end instead of we'll play the last game on the beach. That would be a pretty good deal, right?
I'd say we're probably one of the only schools that could offer that. I know you guys, that is a great thing you guys do every year, usually the practice on the beach. I know I love getting out to see you guys doing that. That's a one-of-a-kind experience when you play
Absolutely.
football.
Not many people can say they did that. Not many people can just go to the beach on any day, but we have that luxury. So we took full advantage of it. And, we always have one practice in the fall that we go on the beach. That's usually during camp. And then one in the spring that we usually do. And it's just an awesome experience. I mean, like Nick Saban's probably got a lot of things on us, but he can't say that he does that often. I know he takes his team to his lake house, but
practice on the river doesn't sound exactly the same as practice on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
So with all the kind of the unknowns and the things that are going to be changing and you got to adapt, that comes, requires leadership. And I know you are really excited about two young men, leaders on your team who you named captains, Matt Messner and Pete Noonan. Talk about them, talk about what they bring to the table and how they're going to help lead this team during the fall without games and hopefully into the spring with games.
Right. I mean, that's the biggest thing is that this is a different year. I mean, coaches are trying to get their hands around how everything's going. So, head coach, assistant coaches, we're going to have to rely on the senior leadership from the captains to the seniors and everybody because there's so many different avenues going on. But the two guys that are captains this year, Pete Noonan and Matt Messner, are absolutely phenomenal football players and phenomenal people. I think that's one thing that is very different. I mean, Pete Noonan has he started every game since he got here as a freshman at left tackle, and left tackle is usually that's one of the most dangerous positions. That's the quarterback's blind side. That's where, and he's been there every game since he set foot on campus. And meanwhile, Matt Messner on the same side he was defensive player of the year in the conference. He was co-defensive player of the year for the conference, but obviously he's a great player as well. And so they're both great players, but then they're also great all-around people. I mean, they're great students. Matt was his GPA. I'll rattle off his last three GPAs for his last three semesters. he had a 3.81, a 3.91, and a 3.78. Meanwhile, Pete, on the other hand, also not too shabby with a 3.38, a 3.40, and a 3.78. I mean, those are just crazy numbers, and they're just doing that semester after semester. And I mean, like, to have guys that are that phenomenal as athletes and also academically being able to do it. I mean, the champions on and off the field. And when you have two guys that can handle, anything that comes their way, academically, athletic, whatever it is, we're going to be all right. And at the same time, they understand how to work with their teammates. They have empathy for their teammates, and they take care of one another. And so that's going to be a great trickle down for the rest of us that, just learn by their example. Just do what those two are doing. Basically, we can tell everybody, and that's what's going to happen. Hopefully that'll be a great thing for our team. And, and so during this crazy time, we can definitely rely on our captains this year. And I think that's a great thing to be able to say.
I think it is impressive about Pete, when I was prepping for this, going back and looking, like, yes, that's right. He started every game since he was freshman. Do you know when you're recruiting some players, like, this guy, unless he comes in and something goes wrong in camp, I know he's going to start every game? Or did Pete come in and surprise you guys and earn that spot and earn that right?
We were really excited about him. We knew he was going to be a good player. You just don't know how good he's going to be, because the other thing is like the jump from high school to college. Sometimes it's mentally struggling because of the playbook. Sometimes it's physically, but sometimes it's emotionally. Like, all of a sudden, everything else is too big for them. Like, all of a sudden they're on a new campus, new state. Food's different. It's not mom's cooking anymore. They're missing their old friends, and so you don't know all these things are going to. But he handled it like a true champ. And at the same time, like when we first got, we're like, well, we'll try him out at guard and see how he does. And then all of a sudden, he came in and had no problems doing any of it. And then all of a sudden, we're like, let's move him out the tackle, see how that goes. And he took that and he ran with it. And I was honestly thinking, like I'd move him to tackle maybe like sophomore year, but he was ready to do it right off the bat. And I was like, here we go. And so he's been a block for the offensive line for the last 3 years, going to go on 4, and maybe we'll see if it's 4.5. So.
Yeah. Now, as you kind of mentioned there, a lot of that comes down to learning about those players, comes down to recruiting, and kind of a two-part question. We found out that in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Connecticut, they've canceled fall football. And so what is your thoughts on, while kind of controversially allowing some other sports to play?
Right.
How does that, your thoughts on that happening, that situation, and how that's going to affect your ability to recruit, to learn and educate yourself, and maybe educate prospective students on college football? How's that going to impact recruiting?
Yeah, well, first, when we lost our fall season, I was kind of excited. I was like, I'm going to be able to get out and see a lot more of the games, and in Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Massachusetts, right in our neck of the woods. So it'd be great to get to see people, see them play live a little bit more. So I was excited about it, being able to get that opportunity, and all of a sudden, Massachusetts domino dropped, and then Connecticut and Rhode Island, and it's unfortunate that it happened, because you'd love to be able to see them, but at the same time, you're gonna have to project. Normally we look at sometimes guys as juniors, and then we see how they improve as seniors. But every year or so, there's a couple of guys that have a season-ending injuries that don't get to play senior year, so you get to project on how those guys are, and then you see you guesstimate and you figure that out. But now we're going to be doing that with a lot of people, and it's going to be a lot more work for us. And and at the same time, you're going to see some of their junior film, but then you're also going to see some like, Coach, here's a video of me sprinting in the backyard, and throwing the ball through a tire hoop or something like that. You don't know what's going to happen, so it's that part's definitely going to be different. It's going to be exciting, and at the same time, even bringing them up to campus. If you bring them up to campus now, they can't meet the players, and I think that's one of the, like, our campus is obviously beautiful, but the culture and chemistry of the team meeting the players, they're not able to talk with the people right now, and I think that's going to be tough that they're not able to do that. So recruiting is definitely going to be different, and it's going to be an evolving process too, because every week it's changing. Who knows what's happening? They might make more restrictions, they might make less in the process, but we wait and see. As coaches, we just adapt and keep moving on. And then to answer the other part of your question, when you were talking about what's it like that they lost it. I know yesterday in Connecticut, I think they had about 1,200 people went to the governor's, I don't know if it's mansion or town hall, whatever it is, and they went there and they were, they had 1,200 people that were talking and protesting and making an impact. So they decided they were going to have a meeting on Friday with two of the committees that turned the season down. So they're hoping to get a turnaround, so they might have a chance to play. Because like you said, other sports are able to play, but football is not. I mean, that's a shame. Because not many people get to be jumped from high school to college football. It's a small amount of people to do that, and so this is the last opportunity to play organized football for a lot of people, and to lose that is very unfortunate. It's very sad, and you'd love for them to be able to figure out a way to do it. There's many ways to make it safe. Wear masks on the helmet, wear masks underneath the helmet. It doesn't matter. They can stay safe. They can figure it out. But let's just, give them an opportunity to stay safe, and hopefully they'll be able to play. But we'll see, and if not, they adapt and they move on. They're just like the coaches have to do it. Players figure out, that control what they can control. And other than that, put the smile on your face and keep on working and keep moving on.
Now, you mentioned there, the idea of having, masks on the helmet. Did you guys at Salvi, did your coaching staff examine any of the like Darth Vader-esque prototype masks that we've seen floated around, or were those not in the budget?
Yeah, we had a lot of guys with the glass, with the the visors, and in the summer, in camp when they're wearing that and the bottom half, I can't imagine how hot that would be, because if you just have the top half, it's very hot, and so now they have the top and the bottom to protect it. And I would think that they'd be very hot. So we looked at it, but we didn't go forward with it because we said we could take the masks and you can put them on the helmet itself, and it'd still be protecting. So like you wouldn't be able to see it. Obviously, you can't see my mouth right there, so all the projectiles coming out of my mouth would be covered. And at the same time, they'll be able to breathe even better because you have a little bit of a gap. You won't be sucking in any threads or anything like that. So that's the avenue that we're going to take with it, and hopefully that'll work out. Because they got to stay safe and they got to be healthy, because that's the other thing, is that these guys are going to be running and they're going to be pushing themselves, and it's going to be hot and it's going to be sweaty. So when you start eating a mask, that's not too good. And especially somebody like myself who enjoys eating, obviously.
Well, as somebody who's a football fan as much as you're a football coach, I'll just get your thoughts quickly here before we cross over with our next guest, Sebastian Nordsey. The NFL starts tonight. Believe it or not, it's just football. It feels like it's this thing we're never going to get. But the NFL starts tonight. The Kansas City Chiefs and the Houston Texans. Fans in the stands. It's almost unbelievable to imagine. But your thoughts on the NFL season opener tonight, Kevin?
I'm more excited about this NFL season than I've ever been, because I'm going to be watching it. Most times, NFL seasons on Sundays, I'm not watching. I got right. I'm watching films, and so so I haven't been able to watch many NFL games. Usually it gets to Thanksgiving, and I get back with my family, my brother, my brother-in-law, my sister, my father, and we're watching a game on Thanksgiving, and I'm like, who's this quarterback? Who's this guy? But this is the year I can watch it and stay up on it. So I'm really excited about the NFL this year. I'm excited about this game. To watch Patrick Mahomes, and that offense that's a lot of fun. And then Deshaun Watson, that's two pretty good quarterbacks to watch right out of the gate. So it should be an exciting game. I'm hoping for 100 points on the board tonight. I don't think that's going to happen, but I'd love to see it.
We'll always see. You never know at the beginning of a season, especially one with the camps and the situation this year. Will the offense or the defense have the advantage? We'll find out in a couple hours. That's the great thing about sports. You find out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Kevin, thank you for being on here today. Always a pleasure to have you on the show and talk with you. You look great. No more mustache, but you're looking good.
I appreciate that. Always a pleasure to talk to you, Andrew.
You too, Kevin. Take care now. All right, that's Kevin Gilmartin, Salve Regina football head coach. We'd like to bring in now our next guest, Sebastian Nordsey, head coach of our women's volleyball team. Seabass, how you doing?
Pez, how's it going?
Good, man. Good. It's kind of funny. You and Kevin just so happen back to back here have a lot of the same ground we want to cover. Just like football gets canceled and there's other sports happening, volleyball is not being allowed to play either. That's got to be frustrating to see. Some of these other sports, I mean, in volleyball isn't as contact as football is, and you got soccer and other things happening. Talk about that decision, high school canceling volleyball as well.
Yeah, so it's different around different states. Like you have Connecticut's having some type of volleyball, Texas is having some type of volleyball. But in Rhode Island, they postponed their season until later in the springtime. And me having connections with Rhode Island high school volleyball, my heart just goes out to all those girls for not having the chance to have this season.
Yeah.
Especially because a lot of them were looking so forward to this season after, club season and all this other stuff was canceled. They were like, all right, great. We're going to play volleyball, no contact. But unfortunately, we're not able to do that in this state because of whatever regulations. It's indoors as opposed to some of these other sports, which are outdoors. So in my opinion, I think it's a real shame. I would love to see the girls play, but it is what it is.
Yeah. And I'm sure you'll kind of echo the same sentiments, but talk about how that's going to affect your ability to recruit these athletes.
Yeah. So usually we have our season and kids will send in high school tapes and be like, hey, coach, can you check out my game? And then we roll into club season, which a lot of recruiting is done during club season. And those seasons are usually back to back. This year, with different states having different regulations, it's going to be pretty crazy because you have Rhode Island clubs are starting up very early. Massachusetts club are starting up earlier. So we're going to have opportunities to recruit there, but it's going to be just a lengthy process because those club teams might break in the springtime to allow for high school seasons, and then they might start up again. So it's going to be a very long process. It's going to be very broken up, but as long as the student athletes have great communication with the coaching staff, it's very manageable. It's very possible to recruit these athletes.
Yeah. Now, Kevin talked about, he's going to be getting tapes of guys throwing balls through, tires and people doing backyard stuff. Do you get that same type of thing in the volleyball world? Do you get people saying like, "Oh, look, I can bounce the ball 80 times," or "Watch me, I'm gonna dive to make a dig in my backyard"? Do you guys get that same type of homemade film footage?
Yeah, and it's really cool. Like some of the things these kids do, they throw up like nets in the backyard, or it'll be a sibling just passing back and forth and spiking at each other. I'm receiving film from beach volleyball, which is very interesting too, because it's very similar sports, but it's also very different in the strategies. But every single time I get that, I'm like, oh, they're doing something different. Like that's pretty cool. That's pretty creative. That's awesome.
Now you mentioned beach volleyball there. I know in our pre-show talk you wanted to mention something about beach volleyball. Talk about that. I don't know if you're talking about being involved in the league or going to watch any beach volleyball. Talk about the beach volleyball thing.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say that I heard Coach Kevin was having football practices on the beach. We got to get the volleyball team out there.
Definitely.
So beaches has been going on all summer in different various forms. And it's been really cool to see because it is 2-on-2. So there is space. It's very less contact than indoor volleyball would be. It's in a, obviously bigger open space. And it's just a great avenue for a lot of these players who can't play indoor to be able to just go out on the beach and just play there. And again, like it's nice. It's beautiful out a lot of the times. You're in the sand playing around. So it's a great opportunity for athletes not only to get better, but just to enjoy a nice day on the beach.
Yeah. Now, have you met with your team yet? I know a lot of people, I think most everybody should be back on campus now. Have you had a chance to meet with your group? Obviously, a group that you got to get to know. I mean, you're a brand new head coach. So, especially with some of the freshmen and how recruiting probably went in the spring to get people here. How's that been for you?
It's been awesome. I met actually the team yesterday, not for the first time, but we had a team meeting just to go over some team expectations and go over the season a little bit. And that was really cool. It was cool to see all the girls in the field and just talk about some things. It was a little bit different having them 6 feet apart. Obviously, I'm much more used to tighter spaces because of the nature of volleyball. It is pretty close by. And I almost wish that they would talk to each other a little bit more, turn to the person next to them and be like, hey, what did you do on your math test today, or whatever it was. But we got through it, and we have some fun things planned for the following weeks until we could get into the gym, just to get that team bonding going that we really missed out because we didn't have any preseason.
Yeah. Now you've talked about, you have an assistant coach, Jack Vaccaro. How important is it going to be to lean on him, not only for, as you said, how dynamic the recruiting and just how much is going to have to be put into the team building, the recruiting, the all this stuff? How much are you going to have to lean on him during this process?
So I'm definitely going to have to lean on Jack a bunch for different things. Again, if we have a spring season and there's club volleyball or high school volleyball, I'm going to have to say, hey, Jack, maybe we have to miss this practice and you go recruit and I'll take the team and run drills or whatever, or vice versa. But he's been a great resource. He's a hardworking, smart kid. He's been really a good ear to listen to. I can bounce ideas off of him, and he's got great quality ideas. And he's like, yeah, that works. Or he'll just be, no, what are you thinking? Which I love that in a coach, an assistant that can say, no, like where, where's your mind going right now?
Yep.
So he's been great. I'm excited to continue working with him, especially now with all the craziness that'll happen. He's going to have to really take on a little bit more, and I'm going to have to give him a little bit more too.
Yeah. Now, along with that, and as we've learned since the spring, we all find, Kevin was talking about being able to be a football fan because he'll have some time to watch these games. We all have a little bit of extra free time now without the games, unfortunately, for us happening. In your free time, I think you've mentioned that you're a photographer, or at least amateur photographer. Talk a little bit about that. I mean, especially being now in Newport, you got tons of things to go get pictures of, tons of content to go capture. So talk a little bit about that, something personally for you, being a photographer.
Yeah, so I like to say I'm a very amateur photographer, not just an amateur photographer. But the places I've lived in my life, it's a lot of Rhode Island. So Narragansett, I like to go to Jamestown, Newport, obviously. And I played a lot of volleyball on the beach this summer. So it was so perfect for me just to break out the camera, go outside, take a few pictures. It was just a great time. And it's something that you can do by yourself, socially distanced. So in the heart of the pandemic, instead of staying cooped in my house the whole entire time, I was able to go outside, go to the beaches, take pictures of birds, buildings from a distance, whatever it was, sunsets, sunrises, just something that really, it was a new hobby for me. And I'm glad I got that free time to experience it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Seb, I want to thank you for joining us here today. Our special guest today is Natalie Reed, someone who's very familiar with photography. So we're going to get to her in a second. But Seabass, thanks again for coming on. Great to see you. And good luck as things go on this fall. Hopefully I'll be able to get into the office and we can chat a little bit in person. But it's good seeing you again.
Absolutely, Pez. Have a great one.
All right, that's Sebastian Nordzi, our women's volleyball head coach. And as I teased earlier, we have a special guest here today, a late addition to the ticket, Natalie Reed. We'd like to bring her into the broadcast now. Nat, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. So thank you for, we had you in the bullpen here to just, go to bring in the utility player here to do it all. You were a multi-sport athlete at Salve. You did excellent work, photography work for our baseball team. Sometimes you sung the national anthem. So we've got plenty to talk about. Let's lead off with the multi-sport thing, because I know you're going to easily want to talk about the baseball and the photography stuff, but you were a multi-sport athlete at Salve. Tell us about which sports you played and what it's like to try and be all those different types of athletes, really.
Yeah. So in high school, it was actually pretty tough for me to pick whether I was going to do ice hockey or field hockey. So I went with ice hockey. I played ice hockey my freshman year here. And my sophomore year, I reached out to Coach Foster and I started lifting and working out with the field hockey team. And so for my last 3-ish years, I was on the field hockey team here. And it was a pretty difficult switch after not playing field hockey for about 2 years. But my teammates were really welcoming, and so was Coach Foster and Coach Van, and they were always there to help me out. Emily was super helpful, our trainer, because switching from skating to running kind of messed with my muscles a lot. So I was with Emily a lot during that switch, but everyone was super welcoming on the field hockey team, and I was so lucky to have joined that team for my last 3 years. So,
yeah. Now you did a lot of work with our baseball team. You took photographs, helped them with social media stuff. How did that happen? Was that something you planned to do and you just wanted to reach out to a team? How did you end up? Because I know it became so important and a big part of your Salve experience, but how did that start? And then talk about that experience as a whole.
yeah. So my freshman year, a girl that I sang with in Pitches, the a cappella group, she actually did some work for Coach Torella and the baseball team. And she was an education major, so she was going to be student teaching a lot. And she came up to me one day because she knew I was a communications major. And she asked if I would want to kind of take her spot and do some social media work and photography for the baseball team. And baseball was actually the first sport that I ever played. So I'm a big baseball fan. I didn't know anyone on the team at that point, but I kind of just took a chance and I said, sure. And I met with Coach, and the next thing I knew, I was coming to all the baseball games. I had a spot in the dugout the guys would save for me, and ended up going all the way to the championship with them and to regionals that year as well, which ended up being on Cape Cod where I live. So it was an awesome experience. I quickly found that I had a talent for photography, and I loved working with the social media as well. The guys were really fun too. They loved the boomerangs. So I quickly realized that they wanted to see more of those. And it just stuck for the next 3 years too. The guys are basically my teammates. So it was just an incredible experience. I can't say enough about it. I can talk to you for hours about it.
I know, and that's one of those things is, for as much as it hurt a lot of the athletes to say lose spring seasons and now lose fall seasons, everybody involved in those programs, it affects those people. I know it's tough to talk about, but we didn't get that final spring season here with the baseball team. That must have been difficult. Because like you said, those guys become family to you. So kind of not to get that last hurrah that I'm sure everybody was looking forward to.
Yeah, it was crazy the way it ended, because we were just all in the dugout. They had just beaten NEC, really good team. And that's kind of where we found out we weren't going to Florida. And I was supposed to travel with the team this year. And I was so excited. It was something I was trying to do all 4 years, and I was finally able to this year. And then it got canceled. So I was right there with them when it all happened. We were all heartbroken. It's really hard to talk about, but because I was so excited to finally travel with them and go to Florida. They're my brothers, so I was really looking forward to having a really fun week.
Yeah, well, you said it there, though. Family, brothers. It's one of those situations where we're all in it together, good and bad, and I think we've all kind of pulled ourselves in together to get through this. You're in grad school right now, up at Emerson College for sports communication. So, congratulations on getting into grad school. And what are you trying? You're obviously sports communication. So, talk about what you're hoping to, the hopes and dreams now for the future of Nat Reed.
Yeah, so I'm in the public relations program with a sports communication track. So I've only had 2 classes so far. But I can already tell that I'm going to be learning a lot from my sports communication professor, Charles Steinberg. He actually works in the Red Sox organization. So that's a little bit exciting. And from only 2 classes with him, I can tell that he's going to be a really great teacher and resource. So I'm really excited. I'm actually in Newport for the year because my classes are online. So I'm happy to be back here and to be taking my classes online from Boston is really cool. But I'm eventually looking forward to moving to Boston. But I'm really glad to be back in Newport. So kind of get the best of both worlds right now.
Double dipping. I was going to ask you, like, what's it like at Emerson? How are they handling everything? So fully online. You're in Newport. Are you hoping to catch some South Bay spring baseball games? Is that some kind of a little bit of that decision there to be in Newport?
I actually told Coach Sorella that I was coming back to Newport. It was kind of a last minute decision, but didn't really need to pay rent in Boston when my classes were online. Didn't really know anyone. So I decided to come back, and I texted him and I said, hey, I'll be in Newport this year. I can do as much as I can for this team. I'm assuming in the spring if more of my classes are in person at Emerson, I'm going to have to be commuting a little bit, but hopefully that shouldn't interfere with some weekend doubleheaders. So I told him that I'm on board, whatever I can do for the team, I'm there. Haven't used my camera since that game against NEC, so it can only help me to come back and use it again, especially while I'm studying sports communication. So I'm on board.
Now that's interesting. You said you haven't touched the camera since the spring. So not, I mean, you said, I assume, did you stay in Newport during the summer? Were you out on Cape Cod? So, I mean, even if you're anywhere you are, there's so much to take pictures of. I'm kind of surprised. Just exclusively for sports. Those lenses are only meant now for sporting events.
Not specifically just sporting events, but I was supposed to come back and work for the Cape Cod Baseball League. I worked for the YD Red Sox in the summer of 2018 and 2019. And I was supposed to go back and do that again this summer, but obviously that got canceled as well. So I just worked all summer. I worked 2 jobs. I was waitressing, I was lifeguarding. So didn't really have much to bring out the camera for, I guess. But I did really miss watching baseball games from the dugout and taking photos. So I'm really looking forward to getting the camera out again for sure. And I had just gotten some new camera equipment too for the South baseball season last spring. So I didn't really get to use it that much, obviously, after only 5 games. So
yeah. Now you said you're waitressing and lifeguarding. 2 things. You must have had to deal with a lot of people in the summer. I mean, especially with everything going on. What was that like? That experience must have been kind of crazy.
Yeah, it was very difficult. Leaving a mask on while you're in a restaurant, hot restaurant. We didn't have AC, and most of the seating is outside. So it was very difficult to adjust to that. And also lifeguarding, we had a ton of new guidelines and restrictions. We weren't allowed to sit in the chair with other lifeguards. We had to sit 6 feet apart in the sand. And wearing a mask on the beach like that when you're sitting in the sun for 8 hours is pretty much impossible. So we had to find ways to kind of social distance at work so we could avoid leaving masks on in 90-degree weather on the beach. So that was difficult, especially for me as a head guard, because I had to kind of implement all the rules and kind of be the bad guy sometimes.
Yep.
But we all kind of worked through it together. It was very difficult with all of the restrictions on the beach, dealing with a lot of angry people because people were too close. But at the end of the day, they're like, you're here to watch the water and perform any medical stuff you need to do. So that's what we were there for. And we kind of focused on that. And luckily we had our supervisors to kind of deal with the more like COVID restriction stuff. So.
Yeah. Well, Nat, great to have you back in Newport. That's a pleasant surprise to learn. Hopefully then, like I said to some of the other guys, if I get on campus, hopefully if you're at any events, get to see you in person. And thank you again for coming out of the bullpen here today and stepping in on the show. So great to see you and great to have you. And thanks again.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Be well now.
Me too.
All right. That is Natalie Reed, South Regina alumni, and just all around great person and multi-talented member of the South Regina community. We're going to take a quick break right now and then come back with the producers to wrap up the show. And so don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Seahawk Talk. I'm your host, Andrew Pizzelli, filling in for Ed Habershaw. I'd like to go to our producers now. We had Joey Morelli and Mike DeFusco. If Mike is there, we've been trying. We need Mike. Trying to get him on.
There he is.
There we go. Mike might be cutting in and out. Hopefully he can hear us. Can you hear? You're bouncing around, Mike, but can you hear us okay?
Oh,
Probably
no.
not.
I can hear you fine. I'm just struggling to, yeah.
Do not adjust your television set. Mike DeFusco is there, but he's just going to be going at 1 frame per 10 seconds. So I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on something. It's something that comes up a lot, and I know for me, as a Boston Celtics fan, a little frustrated last night with the officials. And my take on officials and officiating and refereeing in games is that bad calls happen, non-calls happen. It's all about consistency and letting the players at the end of the day decide a game. And with replay now in every sport, we see more and more we start dissecting things down to a millisecond. Oh, was this contact? Or how, he touched him here for a half a second there. And taking 10 minutes to dissect a routine play. I like what the NCAA has done with college football. You know, if you can't make up your mind in 90 seconds, then the call on the field stands. I like that instead of spending 5 minutes trying to figure out what the right call is on the floor. Obviously, you can't make up your mind. Call should stand. But how do you guys feel about replay in sports? I feel like it's just ruining it. It's not fixing the things it should. What are you guys' opinions? You know, as competitors and also as fans. I'll let Mike go first since he's going to be bouncing around.
Mike,
So, Mike, if you want to go
You
first
can,
on that,
if you
the
guys-
replay in sports.
Yeah, can you guys hear me right now?
Yeah,
Can
we
hear you fine.
At all? Yeah. No, all right. So yeah, no. So in my opinion, I heard this about the NBA actually. Only 44% of calls this season have been overturned. Like challenge calls. So when a coach challenges a call, only 44% of the time do they actually change it. So you got to think it's really not doing what they want it to do. It's more. I think it's more slowing the game down, at least in the NBA. In sports like the MLB, you know, the league's already slow enough. So what are you gonna do? I mean, it's a little different with baseball, but the NBA, you really like to see that fast-paced sort of play. Same with hockey, and I think you're right to an extent. Unless we can really, unless it really improves the officiating, then we should just leave it out. And so far, in some sports, I don't think it has improved the officials at all.
Yeah, Joey, your thoughts.
Yeah, I was just thinking like it definitely like will slow down the momentum of a game. Just like even thinking football, like you can have like, oh, they have this awesome play and there's like an interception or like something, and they have this momentum, and but now you're waiting 10 minutes for the refs to like talk about something, and it's like it's gone, and it kind of ruins it for the fans and for the players too. And like I feel like you're never gonna make the right call 100% of the time, so like it's more at this point like a factor of the game that the refs will have to make calls on the fly, and it's like part of it, like whether it's correct or not, like it's a call that's been made, and like you have to play around with that, and I think it adds more like playability to the game, I guess.
Yeah, I think one of the frustrations that comes from people is that there's some things that are reviewable and other things are not. So you can't challenge a non-call in NBA. If a guy, let's say hypothetically, Kemba Walker goes to the basket and gets fouled at the waning seconds of a game, and it's not a call, can't challenge it, can't review it. The man over my shoulder here, Mr. Bill Belichick, has said, why not make everything reviewable? Why do we have certain things we can and can't review? How do you guys feel about that? That, you know, some things, should everything just be reviewable, even though it slows the game down to have the replays? You only get one, or in the NFL, you only get two. So if you have the ability to challenge a play, you should be able to challenge everything.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go first, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I think
Mike.
that's
Oh yeah, let's let Mike go.
Go, Mike.
Yeah, Mike, you just go. You're on the delay.
Oh, okay. No, just no. So with that, I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I think, yeah, it does. It can slow the game down, just letting them challenge every call. But also, yeah, they only get one or two challenges a game. They're not gonna be able to do that. They're gonna take care of them in that way. So maybe changing it so where, yeah, you only get one or two chances, but you can challenge any play, because there are a lot of plays you see where, like the playing the NFC Championship a couple of years ago, where it was a non-call, right? The pass interference call.
Yep.
And it couldn't even review it because it wasn't a penalty. It wasn't called a penalty on the fields, even though we all saw clearly in that game that it was a penalty. So, yeah, that's what I think, at least. Joey, what do you got?
Yeah, I think like a similar thing, like you could do like how coaches right now, like you have X amount of times you can challenge a call, maybe add a rule where it's like a coach can challenge a non-call, but it costs like two of their, or like something like that. Like challenging a non-call is riskier and like costs more, but like it gives you the option, especially like if you're like a coach who like never really uses a call, like it kind of like makes them have to worry about saving it, and
if they have the ability to go back and say, wait, let's add on a technical foul here because some guy had incidental contact or he threw an elbow and we didn't catch it, you should be able to go and add calls and fouls that should have been called. So obviously it's not a perfect system. Still a lot they have to work out. That's my little vent session for the day on officiating in sports. Something that no one will actually ever probably be happy about ever at any point in time. But what else did you guys have? Impressions from today's show or other things you guys wanted to talk about here at the end?
The thing Joey said about the officials making mistakes and just putting up with that's also just a really good point too, because that's part of the humanity of the game. If players make mistakes, officials can. But I also wanted to just bring up, hey, we got football back tonight, Texans Chiefs. Very excited to watch football again. So and even some fans in the stadium. I heard you guys talking about before it disconnected me. So what were you guys saying? Something like 17,000 fans being let in, or 1,000?
Yeah, so they are operating at 22% capacity, which is like, 22%? No, that's not a lot. Well, 22% of the Chiefs Stadium is still 17,000 people that are going to be in the stands. I don't know what it's going to look like. Are they going every other row with every 5 seats? What is it going to look like? They're trying, I read through their little proposal to keep people, designated entrances and exits depending on where you sit and to keep everybody separated, totally scrubbing the stadium from top to bottom at beginning, middle, and end of the game. Everybody, vendors behind shields and contactless paying and all sorts of stuff that looks good on paper. We don't know how that's going to work in practice. They'll be the first live sporting event with fans since March 10th, 11th, around there, probably. So it'll be very interesting to see if and how that works. Or at least we're going to get one night and probably one weekend of it.
We will get,
with the NFL.
At minimum, one football game.
Yeah. We know we have tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any other thoughts on that, Joey?
I mean, honestly, I think, they probably really, really want to, have football come back. So I'm sure they're taking, the proper precaution. Like Salve really wants everyone to stay on campus. So I'm sure they're, doing the most. And, Germany and New Zealand and other countries have had sports with fans. I'm sure they're, following their lead and taking inspiration from other places. So it has worked. So hopefully, we get that second game of football.
Yeah. I think we'll probably get a couple of weeks in and then we'll see. The thing is, it's not going to affect the players, I imagine, having fans in the stands from a coronavirus standpoint.
Yeah, I guess.
But it's going to impact all of the, the people who are honestly seasonal hourly workers who come in to, be security guards, ticket takers, vendors. They're the people who are going to be now at the most risk, just like everybody else who works in that sort of service industry. So they're the people you have to. If a whole stadium of vendors get sick after, say, the Chiefs game or any games this weekend, again, that's going to impact. That will impact fans in the stands at future games, just because nobody's going to pay to go sit in a seat and not get a drink or a hot dog, something like that. You have to have services in the stadiums.
And not even if the vendors get sick, it's if the fans aren't being responsible and if they get everybody sick and then they can't have fans, they've just ruined the season for all these seasonal workers. The players might still get paid, but these people who are making $15 an hour, they're out of a job for the season. And and just because of one person decides, I don't want to wear a mask or I don't want to do this really simple thing. Yeah. And hopefully that's not an issue and that they're going to enforce it really well. Cause again, I think they really want football with fans. So I think they're going to try really, really hard to make it happen. Hopefully. Yep.
Like we said with Kevin Gilmartin, we'll see. We get to see tonight. We'll see. And in the words of, again, Bill Belichick, it is what it is. So Joe, I think we may have lost Mike again, but do you have any other? Do you have any other thoughts from today's show, kind of to close things up here?
Nothing in particular. Just, I mean, I have had scrolling at the bottom of the screen for a while. Today is World Suicide Prevention Day, and there's a lot of resources online and stuff. And I'll just, quickly mention, like there's that number. There's lots of crisis resources available for anyone who's struggling. If you know anybody, check in on your friends. Just like it was something I saw the other day. They were just like, sometimes you can't tell if like someone's having a bad time. Like just ask your friends, how you doing? Like truly, honestly, and mental health really important, especially to me, very important cause. I'm sure to a lot of people. So that.
Yeah, no, that's a wonderful point to bring up, especially now. Everybody has been feeling the mental crunch of the last 5 months, especially, and those that already were probably having a hard time. It's extra hard, and just again to hammer home to people, there's always somebody there to listen. There's always you sometimes you may feel alone, but there's a friend, there's somebody, and if you feel truly alone or worried, like you said, the number at the bottom of the screen, there's so many services, people you can reach out to, talk to get help. And sometimes the hardest thing to do is to admit that something's not right, or that you need help, and you feel like, oh, I have to be tough. But no, it's okay. More people than not, once people start opening up and really being and having mental health, mental illness not be something that's stigmatized, it's something that we all deal with in one way or another. It's part of the human experience. We all go through tough times. So understanding and feeling comfortable reaching out to those resources is incredibly, incredibly important and a great thing to bring up.
Yeah. And if you're at Salve, we have counseling services. I don't know how they're set up this year, but they're really wonderful people. I've met some of them. They're super nice. Again, not super certain how it works now, but definitely like they're a resource that students have. I'm sure most colleges have things like that. So even people who aren't at Salve.
Yeah, the Salve Counseling Center was great, especially at the beginning. We had a big so many things, like so many moving parts at the beginning of this back in March. And I know
I remember that.
we did a lot of work with them, putting out informational graphics, resources for people, because that time was incredibly stressful. The upheaval, because a lot of people. That's part of the reason. We talk about wanting to do the right things and keep people on campus, and athletes want games to happen in the spring, this and that. For some people, their safest and most comfortable place is on campus because of the access to certain services. So that's just as important for us to be responsible. That's another reason for us to be responsible, is to keep this community here and safe, because there's people who need to be here, and this might be the safest place and the most comfortable place they have. So we want to make sure that that's here for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I think that's a good note to end on. So yeah, once again, that number on the bottom of the screen that Joey's been scrolling through there. If you feel like you need to talk to somebody, you're not alone. Give that number a ring if you need help, and there's plenty of resources for you to reach out to. So Joey, thanks for bringing that up. Just want to give another special thanks to our guests today, Kevin Gilmartin, Sebastian Nordsey, and special guest Natalie Reed. It was great to see Nat and have her in on the show. And then special thanks to you guys, Joey and Mike, behind the scenes, running the show, able to give Ed Habershaw a day off here today. Load management here on Seahawk Talk. Thank you all for joining in and tuning in and listening with us. One quick announcement at the end. If you can't catch us live, we're live every day, Monday through Friday, 3 to 4 p.m. You can go watch the videos. They're saved on YouTube, on Periscope, and on Facebook. But if you want Seahawk Talk on the go, you can subscribe to the podcast. Just search for Seahawk Talk on your favorite podcasting app, and it should pop right up for you. So you can like, subscribe, and truly never miss a show. There's no excuse for you to have not seen or heard Seahawk Talk. So that's going to do it for today's program. Once again, special thanks to our guests, Kevin Gilmartin, Sebastian Nordsey, and Natalie Reed, our producers, Joey Morelli and Mike DeFusco. I'm Andrew Pizzelli. Have a great day, everyone, and see you tomorrow.